The Eagles offensive coordinator job, and it has been filled, and it is 33-year-old Sean Mannion coming over from the Packers. He was their quarterback coach. I remember the last game Sean Mannion probably started. I want to say it was 2022 or 2023 at the end of the year when Minnesota, when they had gone through Josh Dobbs and basically every quarterback on their roster. And at the end of the year, Sean Mannion, I believe, got a start, and it was ugly. It was an ugly one. Now he's the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to be, assumingly, it's not Sirianni, calling the plays, calling the offense here. And this is now the 6th offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles in the last 7 seasons. This felt like this was coming for a while now, that they went through the top candidates, Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll, every other offensive mind that was in consideration for an offensive coordinator job. And it seems from the outside, nobody wanted this job, not at least the top candidates. So Sean Mannion now backs his way into being Jalen Hurts' play caller, being the Eagles' offensive play caller. On paper, this is an attractive as hell job with the Super Bowl champs from 2 years ago and all pros all around the offense. So what was the issue? And look, we could be both wrong here. I could be wrong. Sean Mannion might be the next great offensive play calling guru the NFL has seen in years, and I'll eat my words. I'll be the first one. But it feels like the Eagles, this was like their 8th or 9th choice here. So how did this happen, Brad? And who is responsible? Because I know who I want to put the blame on.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear to me that you're going to point a finger at Nick Sirianni, and understandably so, because of his hot-headed mentality, so demonstrative. And, we don't see the ins and outs and, how things unfold behind the scenes. So, we could be reading too much based on the surface underneath. He could be all warm and fuzzy and cute and lovable and so cuddly and just wonderful to work for. I mean, I have no idea. But exterior-wise, Nick Sirianni blows a gasket consistently. And, a lot of people may find, the very conservative scheme that this offense is typically implemented rather unattractive. We'll see if Sean Mannion does alter that and reconfigures it in some way. So that's one, selling point and maybe a jump off point, not selling me necessarily. But another one, too, is A.J. Brown. Like, what do we know about his drama and his saga and what the final verdict is going to be? Is he going to stay in the city of brotherly shove, or is he on a one-way ticket out of town based on how things went down? So there are a lot of questions. I agree on the surface in terms of just personnel alone. It is a top 5 gig. You still have a top half efficient in terms of pass blocking, run blocking, offensive line, though they took a step back this year. Assuming A.J. Brown is still in uniform, you have one of the premier field stretchers and pass catchers in the league there to go along with Devontae Smith, to go along with the premier running back in Saquon Barkley, and a proven Super Bowl winner in Jalen Hurts. So he regressed somewhat with his gross inaccuracies, and the turnovers really mounted down the home stretch. So, yeah, I think you're exactly right. 7th, 8th on the list. We'll see how Sean Mannion performs. A pretty good job with the on-field evolution of the game of Jordan Love last season in Green Bay. Got to give some credit to Mannion for that. But we're going to see how the personalities ultimately fit in. On the surface, for me, I would want to coach with Nick Sirianni, but I could be completely wrong on that front. You, my friend, have somebody in your inner circuit, in your inner circle that loves the Philadelphia Eagles through and through. So you're, exposed to this on a regular basis. So I'm curious your thoughts on if it is Sirianni as the primary issue and why it took him so long to find their OC and what the upside really is with Sean Mannion, given his relative inexperience, especially this level coaching the NFL.
Yeah. My girlfriend, Corinne, she's a massive Eagles fan. She's pissed. She goes, who the hell is this guy? She goes, why didn't anybody want to take this job? And look, I mean, we're all kind of echoing the same sentiments here. And like I said, Sean Mannion, I guess he's got to get a little bit of credit, right? I mean, he's been with the Packers for the last 2 years. He was the quarterback coach this year. He's an offensive assistant last year. And so whatever you'd like to say about Jordan Love's progression, If you believe that happened, I know, Jordan Love at his peak, I think, is awesome. Am I going to credit a lot of that to Sean Mannion? No, but again, how many times have we seen, this guy was the quarterback coach here, and now he's a hot commodity. So, like, he's got to get a little bit of credit. I'll give him that. I have no idea what he's going to be like as a play caller. Sean Mannion is a guy that's only been an assistant coach for 2 years. I mean, he was playing as of just a couple of years ago. He played under Kevin O'Connell, so I would imagine some of those offensive principles are going to be rooted in his game. Other than that, I have no freaking idea what kind of play caller he's going to be. Anything, honestly, is going to be better than what Kevin Patullo did to this Eagles offense. He set offensive football back 50 years this past season. So anything is better than Kevin Patullo. You want to know why? It's Nick Sirianni. The reasoning that this job seemed, from the outside in, unattractive. You want to know why it's not Jalen Hurts? You want to know why it's not Howie Roseman? And you want to know why, to a certain degree, it's not A.J. Brown, but probably a certain degree it is? For me, first and foremost, it's Nick Sirianni, because Brian Daboll could have been the Eagles' offense coordinator. And he chose the Tennessee Titans. He chose Cam Ward. Now, how many of us actually think that Cam Ward is either now better than Jalen Hurts or could be better than Jalen Hurts? I can't imagine there's very many people that think that on the planet. And if you do, I would call you delusional. Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl MVP 2 years ago. He was the best player on the field in both Super Bowls he's been in. He went toe-to-toe with Mahomes and outplayed Mahomes, but the Eagles lost because their defense couldn't stop anybody. Couldn't stop the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. Did Jalen Hurts have a great year this year? No. Did he have a good year? Yes. Do I think he's still a top 10 quarterback? Without a shadow of a doubt, absolutely. Whatever limitations you think Jalen Hurts might have, that is not going to stop a great offense coordinator from coming here. Is A.J. Brown a diva? Right? We all like to call wide receiver ones divas. Yes, he is.
Yep.
It's the guy that went on social media after 2 days after they won the Super Bowl last year. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, said, yeah, well, the feeling of winning the Super Bowl is over already because I didn't dominate on the field. It's a guy that reportedly requested a trade multiple times throughout this season. We know anytime, if there's drama with the Philadelphia Eagles, point to A.J. Brown, you probably have your answer. Why? Was he right in bitching and moaning that he wasn't getting the football enough early in the season? Probably. And then that comes down to the offense coordinator, Kevin Patullo, for not designing plays for him, not getting more creative in the route tree. I mean, again, the Eagles ran just more hitches, 5 yards turnaround than any other team in the history of the playoffs in the last 30 years. But they didn't do that last year. And Jalen Hurts was more than capable of making big-time throws and playing big-time games. So I don't want to hear about, it's Jalen Hurts' limitations. No. Nobody regresses to the point where they can't throw a freaking 15-yard and in route from one year to the next without being injured. So was A.J. Brown a little bit of a part of it? Yes. But this is Sirianni. This is Nick Sirianni and whatever kind of clown show he's starting to run there, because Brian Daboll worked with Jalen Hurts at Alabama. He was the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach when Jalen Hurts was there. He's got a pre-existing relationship with him. Why? Why would Brian Daboll turn down the opportunity to work with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, say what you will about A.J. Brown, an offensive line that, yes, they weren't as great as they were last year, but it's still pretty damn good on paper. It's above average. To work with Cam Ward and the Titans? That doesn't make any sense. Brian Daboll should have been the offensive coordinator, and the fact that he wasn't makes me think that this is solely because of Nick Sirianni, because he doesn't want to work under him, because he doesn't want Nick Sirianni meddling with the offense, right? Whoever's coming in here to call the plays should have nearly full autonomy of the offense. They should be the play caller like that position has been, and that should be a prime opportunity to launch yourself right back into a head coaching position. So why would Brian Daboll turn that down if not for Nick Sirianni Again, a guy that's very douchey on the sidelines. He's arrogant. He doesn't really do anything. You don't call the offensive plays. You don't call the defensive plays. You're not a special teams guy. You're an offensive mind. And yet it felt like there was every opportunity for him to take over the play calling last year, like Dan Campbell did for the Detroit Lions, and Nick Sirianni just let the ship sink. So I think it's Sirianni. And I don't know why. There are some rumors, there are some reports from people that Howie Roseman has been a big part of this process. I don't see how. There's too much talent on offense. Philadelphia is a tough city, and so people have been saying, oh, well, that's a tough job. If you don't succeed, you might get fired. Like, if you don't want to take a tough job, then you're a loser, and you're a wussy, and you shouldn't be taking any kind of job in the NFL. Oh, because the people at Philadelphia might be mad at me. They might egg my house. Like, get lost. This is because of Sirianni, and I think that's blatantly obvious at this point. And so I feel like this has to put him on the hot seat now because he whiffed on the last offensive coordinator. And if you don't call the plays on offense, you don't call the plays on defense, well, then your main responsibility is hiring great coordinators. And he got it with Vic Fangio. He's gotten into the past with Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore, but you failed about as miserably as you could here with Kevin Patullo. So if Sean Mannion calls the plays and this Eagles offense stinks again, not only should he go, Sirianni should go as well. He has put himself on the hot seat, I feel like now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that perspective. Sirianni, it's kind of a make or break opportunity for him. And you might think it's bat bleeping crazy considering he's got a Super Bowl ring right now, in his arsenal. And obviously you earned that accolade. It was a tremendous victory, tremendous triumph for that city, for that organization. But people forget quickly. And we live in a day and age of instant gratification. And if he doesn't get the job done ASAP and immediately next year, that hot seat, man, it's going to burn those cheeks, to say the least. And I agree. They're going to clean house across the board. But again, the $64,000 question really remains to me, Pat, is where is A.J. Brown come week 1 of next year? Is he in Philadelphia? Or is he going to be somewhere else? Is he going to check the ego? Is he going to swallow his pride and say, you know what? I'm going to give Manning a shot. I'm going to give Sirianni another shot. I'm going to see my way through this dark time that I have maybe self-constructed in my career, and I'm going to stick around and try to make amends with the city of Philadelphia. Or is it already beyond the pale now, or he's starting to burn bridges that he wants out? He's got to turn the page in his own mind. He wants to have a fresh start with another organization. I don't know what the ultimate decision is going to be made, but that or the two different directions, that is the fork in the road, the split right down the road. And ultimately, it could determine whether or not Philadelphia is going to be successful with Manny now calling the shots on offense, or they're going to be unsuccessful next year. Simple as that. It's going to come down to whether or not A.J. Brown is going to fly, Eagles fly in 2026.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I see that we all see the talent A.J. Brown has, but there was a graphic at one point. The Eagles were a way better team, and when he actually had under 100 receiving yards, and the couple of games he had over 100 receiving yards, they lost the majority of them. Now, that could just be coincidence. That could be, there were times again where I would I'm watching Eagles games. I'm begging them, throw the freaking ball to A.J. Brown. Throw it to him. And then in the biggest game of the year, he has those critical, excruciating drops against San Francisco. And now you feel like you're back to square one. You feel like you're back at rock bottom with A.J. Brown here, where you just know if there is one or two games where you're going up against a defense that has a great number one corner, and so you got to attack the other side of the field. You got to run the ball with Saquon, who's coming off a down year now. And A.J. Brown, you just know that A.J. Brown's not going to get a couple of targets. As an offense coordinator, are you willing to deal with that? Are you ready for that backlash? Are you ready for then the bitching and the moaning and the complaining in offensive meetings and what have you? And on game day on the sideline when you're trying to call a game and you're trying to call an offense. I do think A.J. Brown plays a little bit of a factor. If Howie Roseman said to Brian Dable or Mike McDaniel or anybody else, hey, we're going to try to trade him, then I think the job becomes more attractive. But, again, for me, I think it's Sirianni, man. I really do. I just think he rubs people the wrong way. And I know that he's got a Super Bowl title and he's been in 2 Super Bowls. So I gave him a lot of credit last year when they won the Super Bowl. And I said, look, this is a guy that doesn't call the plays. But you know what? They kept this locker room together when it was threatening to fall apart earlier in the season, when it had fallen apart last year and they melted down in 2023. And I gave him a lot of credit for that. But now, maybe is it some revisionist history? Yeah, but it's starting to feel like now they won a Super Bowl last year in spite of Nick Sirianni and not because of him. And he puts an easy target on his back. So you just better hope that offense is clicking, man. Because you can't scapegoat the offensive coordinator 2 years in a row. And unless Jalen Hurts is playing visibly, unless he visibly regresses more, if Jalen Hurts puts up Jalen Hurts type numbers, then it's going to be on the head coach. And it's going to be time to make a change at head coach if the Eagles have another underperforming season last year. Because remember, they pushed all those void years into the back ends of all these big contracts that they have. It's going to become time to pay the piper really soon for them. So this window that they have, it ain't going to stay open for long, man. We're maybe looking at another 2 years where the Eagles have to try to win another Super Bowl. And then we'll see if Howie Roseman can be the great GM that he's proven himself to be. Can he restock with great young draft players? Can he move on from big contracts? That's what we're looking at right now. The Eagles probably have another 2 years with this current iteration of this roster to try to win a Super Bowl. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that window is tightening, and it's tightening very quickly. They need more weapons, too. Look, I know they got Saquon Barkley. He saw some regression, and that was going to be natural, coming off the 2,000-yard season. But, he wasn't crossing the chalk a whole hell of a lot this season. What did he have, 6 rushing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns on the year? He took a step back there. The efficiency numbers across the board took a step back. I mean, he was in the bottom quarter among qualifying running backs in yards after contact per attempt. Saquon's a guy with tree trunks for legs. It's just dumbfounding how he really took that step back, in the shimmy, the shake, and all of the advanced metric categories that it matched up with the eye test as well. You got Dallas Goedert there, sure-handed tight end. We got to credit is due. He's pretty damn good, a top 10 tight end in my book. We'll see about A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, one of the premier field stretchers in the league as well, but they don't have really a certifiable WR3. They got to get somebody that can fill that position, that could, line up in the slot comfortably, could work outside as well, kind of be versatile like a Luther Burden type, taking it back to Maine Chicago Bears. If they got a guy like that in that offense, then, there would be zero excuses for Mannion, for Sirianni, for Hurts, for everybody. They should get the deal done, should easily win the NFC East, and they should be a viable contender for a Super Bowl win again next year. But time will determine. We shall see, my man, what shakes out there in Philly.